Hey, everybody, welcome back to Behind the Spacebar, the podcast where we help you become a world-class playback engineer. We're back with our good buddy Tyler. It was so good that we had to go back for seconds. It's like Thanksgiving, so or if it's Thanksgiving in my house, Tyler will be back for 3 or 4 more episodes. We don't know. We'll just see how the second round goes. But hey,
I'm
before we
hungry
get
all of a
into
sudden. I don't know why. I just
what's
got me
that?
hungry. I said I'm hungry all of a
Oh, you're
sudden for
hungry all of a
turkey
sudden. Yeah,
and
I don't know.
gravy and things.
I mean, it's a few months away. You can wait.
I'll
You'll be
wait.
fine.
I'll wait. I'll shut up. You do your spill. Sorry.
Before we get started, though, guys, if you've been following along with podcasts at all, you know what to do. Follow us on Instagram. Hit us up on From Studio to Stage IG. Send us those questions. We're going to try to answer them to the best of our ability here on the podcast. So you can get your very own question answered by the man, the myth, the legend, Will Doggett. And also, if you're new to playback, you don't know where to start, you need some free resources, head over to fromstudiotostage.com. We've got a template that you can sign up for. It's going to walk you through how to get started in playback. There's going to be 2 free courses attached to that. It's good stuff. It'll change your life. As someone who went through this program, I can attest to that. You won't regret it at all. And like I said, hey, it's free. What do you got to lose?
Yeah,
Get
stop
signed up.
complaining.
Yeah,
It's free, you
exactly. What do you want?
jerks.
What
Just
else do you
download
want
it.
from us? Good God.
You
So
get the value you pay
I'm
for.
Yeah,
channeling
it's
That's what
worth
you
the
Will's
get.
price you pay
angst.
for it.
Yeah.
That's right.
For sure.
So yeah, check us out from studiostage.com, from Studio Stage IG for those questions. But hey, along those same lines, we have had a few questions come in that we want to discuss with Tyler because he is on the road. Just in general about getting gigs. So I don't want to necessarily go through these verbatim. They generally are around the same topic, just how do I meet people? How do I get gigs? But there's one that I think in particular, Tyler, I did want to address with you because of your background. Before you were on the road, you kind of started on Church World, similar to myself. But yeah, Andrew reached out to us. He says, I really want to get into professional world of playback engineering. I have some good experience with local artists at my church. Problem is, I live in South Texas, not near any big cities like Nashville. Or I'm going to throw in LA as well. What do you think my first step should be to pursue professional playback engineering? What's your take on that?
Sure. I get this question sometimes from people, and I try to boil it down to a couple different things. First, I think you just need to be really good at the job, be a great playback engineer, but also, are there other skills that maybe you can learn and grow in? I mean, are you a guitar player? Can you learn to maybe guitar tech or learn to build some drums or tune drums? No one knows how to tune drums, so maybe learn how to tune drums. Um, are you good at sales? Like maybe you can do merch for a company for a little, or just something to get your foot in the door. But ultimately, it starts at being just really good at your job because sometimes you have to be good uh, and then lucky. But I think in a lot of ways you can make your own luck. So that's kind of like point number two for me is you have to be in a place where you're around people who are going to be able to give you jobs. Like if I just spent my time inside all day at my apartment, I'm never going to meet people who are in the industry who are going to be able to give me a job. I can put posts on Facebook, but the reality is no one knows you, no one really cares. This is an industry of relationships. Most of my gigs in the last 2 years have come from people that I've met in the industry, audio engineers, tour managers, production managers. Um, so that might seem hard in the beginning. How do I meet these people? But Ken Coleman is a radio personality and an author with the Ramsey Network, and he has this great book called The Proximity Principle. And I think it works in every aspect of life, but especially in this world that you have to get around people who are in the industry, whatever that means. So for this question, maybe it's go down to your local venue, and it sounds like they might have done some of this with local artists, but can you tour manage a local artist for a cheap rate and just get out there and learn how the industry works? Can you become like a runner at a venue? locally and just get your name in there. Start just letting everyone know this is what I want to do. I'm actually really good at it. Um, but you have to be around the areas that are giving out these kind of jobs. Another thing that I think is really interesting is like really be sure. We chatted about this a little, Will and Reese before, but be sure you know what you want as far as being in this industry. Is this really? Do you want to travel a lot? Do you have a family? Like, do you want to be home with your kids? Like, figure out what it really is about the industry that draws you in, and make sure that this is really what you want. Because you might have to make some changes. You might have to move. If this is what you really want to do, you might have to go somewhere where you can be at least for a season around people who who are able to give you jobs. So there's ways to get in, but you might have to make some sacrifices if this is what you really want to do.
Yeah, that's good. And I think as a guy who lives in Charleston, South Carolina, and you as a guy who used to live in when we both used to live in Austin, now in Salt Lake, neither of us live in Nashville or LA, but both of us are gainfully employed on the road as
Sure.
playback engineers. So I don't think you and I guess that's the interesting thing is yes, proximity pencil, be near those people. I think if you want a gig working for a list pop artist, then yes, you probably do need to live in Nashville or LA. You need to join a playback like cooperative or whatever you call those things that are kind of popped up everywhere. And kudos to the folks that are doing that. But like to be in that camp, yes, you do need to probably be Nashville or LA. But I mean, I love what you said, Tyler, about this being relationships, because the artist I'm currently working with now that I'm on the road with is I got this gig through a relationship of with someone that I have known for 20 plus years.
Sure.
And the gig before this last year, where I wasn't on the road full time, but was playback programmer, system designer, supported them throughout the show. That was through a relationship that I'd had for 10 plus years. And when they had the need, when they got to the point where they needed someone, they came to me and asked for my help. I wasn't advertising, putting my name out there as someone doing that, but because of that relationship. So I think you're right, man. I think one, people don't need to go move to Nashville or LA, but you need to be around this. And
Yeah.
the way you get a gig is always someone recommends you for that gig. And the reason they recommend you is you either worked for them, they worked for you, they were in the same space where you also were, and they saw the way you carried yourself, the way you treated people. Um, One thing that's interesting, every time we have these conversations, this very rarely comes up. So I'd love to get your thoughts on this. But as we know, 95 to 98% of your time on the road is actually not spent on stage. So how important is just being a human being that people like talking to, that's like easy to get along with? How important is that? Because we've both encountered people that are not easy to get along with, or great to talk to on the road. But how important do you think that is to getting a gig professionally as a playback engineer?
Yeah. I think it's two things. I think it is important for getting gigs, but it's also very important for keeping gigs and getting new gigs in the future. Um, I can think of 5 people that I would recommend for any job that they said they wanted to do, because I know they'll figure it out. They're great hang. They are good at the current job that they're doing. I can think of also 5 people that I would never want to work with again, no matter how good they were at their job. And that's just the reality of the industry, is like you have to be a good person. You have to treat people well, because you are literally with them every single day from the second you wake up. They haven't had their coffee yet. And I'm an introvert, so I tell everyone when I go on tour, I say, 2 weeks in, don't talk to me. I don't want to be around you. I'm going to go into my bunk. Don't ask me to hang out, because if I don't do that, then I probably will end up maybe murdering you or punching you in the face. But yeah, it's so important, because, like I said, all my gigs that I've gotten probably in the last year or two have just been through someone, whether it be a production manager, tour manager, audio engineer. Um, but again, that's the proximity. I think proximity doesn't mean you have to move to Nashville. It means you have to be around people who have the opportunity to give you work and to recommend your name. And that's not in the LA like sleazy way of like, oh, you want to network, bro? Let's go. Let's network. I just can't stand that. But if people like you, they recommend you for gigs. And sometimes if people have recommended me for huge stage manage gigs where I've been like, I don't think I can do that. I don't know how to do that. And you can figure it out. It's fine. I'm like, thank you for believing in me, but I think that's above my skill set. But when people like working with you, they know you can figure things out, then they'll recommend you for anything.
Yeah, something that was sticking out to me as you were talking is it's easy to think the proximity principle means be in these like location, Nashville, LA. But I think at the heart of what Ken is saying too is it means like do the work you want to be doing. And we live in a world where you can fill your mind with information. Um, but be someone who's full of information, but no actual experience or no actual, and what I want to be super, super clear here. I don't mean, Reese, who was the guy that submitted the question, that you read earlier? I forgot his
Um,
name.
yeah, that was Andrew on
Andrew.
Instagram.
Okay. So Andrew mentioned, I do this for my church. I want to make sure Andrew hears me. I'm not saying, okay, in order for Andrew to do playback on the road professionally with an artist, his experience in the church doesn't count. Now, the person hiring for the artist probably doesn't care that he did this for his church of 10 to 15,000 people. They don't care about that. But what I'm saying is, if Andrew's actually doing the skill in his church that he then also wants to transfer to be on the road, that counts as doing the work. Right now, he needs to, translate that over. What does not count is someone that's just full of knowledge and you actually never do it. Right. And so again, I'm not saying in this specific context, I'm just saying like, it's one thing to watch tutorials and learn something. It's, I joke that every time I post anything about any Ableton programming thing and I don't mention AbleSet, there's some kid that comments and lets me know that there's something called AbleSet that exists. And every time I talk anything about talkback mics, someone's going to say, yeah, but have you heard of the OptoGate? And I'm like, good Lord, shut up about the freaking OptoGate. Like there's other solutions to
All
talkback
12-year
mics.
olds, right? Yeah.
All 12-year-olds living in
Yeah.
their mom's basement. But it is that, what I'm trying to say is like, the doing the proximity principle is, yes, be around the people doing the work you want to do, but the best way to learn to do the work you want to do is to do the work you want to do. Right now, that sounds
Yeah.
like circular logic, but
Right.
go try it, do it, buy all the eye connectivity gear and set it up in your office and learn it and master it, and then expose yourself to the potential failure of designing a rig for someone else and putting yourself out there and seeing what happens. And as you do that work, it just builds upon itself to open the door to the next thing.
Yeah, me and Reese were talking about that before we jumped on here, but the idea that the working in the church prepared me for this job, but my resume with my
Mm.
church work, like you need a tour resume for people to hire you. It's just the reality of it. So that church experience is very valuable at making you good at what you do, which is the part one that
Yeah.
I'm talking about. But unfortunately, it doesn't necessarily translate to tour experience because when a production manager looks at your resume, they're going to be like, oh, he doesn't know how to live on a bus. He doesn't know that you can't go number two on a bus. He does like I don't want that person around until they have like a year or two of experience. And the way you get that experience is starting from the bottom. And unfortunately, that's unless you're like Will and you have like super name recognition and people are going to pick you up for arenas, that doesn't really happen. You have to start from the ground up, and that's fun too. Um, but that's the part where you have to be good at your job, which is the church experience, and then you have to jump into actually having like a touring resume, and you have to.
So let's be super specific when we talk about like when you say ground up, because someone
Sure.
might look at that and go like, well, church is ground up, right?
Sure.
When we're talking about ground up, Tyler, you're specifically saying like in some sort of road context. So
Yeah.
like for instance, like this, Andrew's like, I live in South Texas, not a big city, I mean, my first thought is like, well, Austin would be the first place to go if you were wanting to relocate. But I think what we're mostly talking about is finding the work where you're at. The proximity is proximity to people, proximity to doing the thing. So like, would you suggest if we're bottom rung, would you tell somebody like, hey, you don't want to relocate to another city, start, on the Weekend Warrior side, is there a local band that needs playback? They're just doing bars Friday and Saturday night. Is that where you think like your first go to would be for someone who's like wanting to dip their toe into this world?
Sure.
Just be as specific as we can because, like, again, uh, my takeaway from listening to you guys talk about this is unlikely that you're going to go straight from some sort of church context to like, and now I'm, even in a van for 2 or 3 weeks. Like, is there a step before that that people could look out for?
Yeah, I think like maybe my opinion would be don't just look for playback gigs. Get any touring gig you can get with a local artist. Maybe they're doing just up and down, in a van on the East Coast or something. They're just doing a random tour. Like, are you administrative? Can you offer to tour manage them? Which means buying hotels and making sure they show up on time. Can you offer to set up their gear? Like anything that's going to give you touring experience is better than like anything in the industry is productive in my opinion. So what can you offer to an artist for even like a low price that shows that you actually want to get into the industry, and then you start to learn. Like you have to pay your dues in a way and learn what the industry is actually like. Like for the first year, I didn't even know what the music industry was like. I knew all this playback stuff. I had no idea how to interact with a venue staff that hate you and have done 6 shows this week, 6 shows in five
Yeah.
days. Like you have to learn that side of things, and that's what people are looking for. So whatever you can do to get on the road and get in the industry, whether that's in playback or not, like I think that's a good place to start. Go sell merch or go tour manage or go work at a venue as a runner, like I was saying. Like get in the industry, get around the people. There's a venue for sure in your town. If it's just a bar, like go work there and start meeting people. It's
I Yeah, I think something as you're talking, one, I'd love to maybe share a counter thought in a second if I remember that and if we have enough time. But I think one thing that Tyler keeps saying that's really important that I want to stress is I think, and Tyler, you correct me if you think I'm wrong on this. I'm open to the pushback. Is I think the proximity principle is one thing that's important for people to understand. What Tyler's talking about, like road life, that's a real thing. It's a different way of life than just someone who programs Ableton sets and designs eye connectivity rigs, right? Living on the road on a bus with people, can you survive that? Can you thrive during that? Are you going to self-destruct?
do you want to do
Um,
that?
do you want to do that?
Right.
Because like that's a conversation that you can only discover by just being on the road doing it. And you can do it in a myriad of contexts. You can do it for 7-time Grammy Award winning artist that flies you from your hometown comfortably to Nashville on Wednesdays, and you take a bus with really great people and play really great venues and work a couple hours a day and then fly home on Monday. And that's a really great way to be on the road. And I'm okay with that. What I'm not going to do is go hop on a bus with a bunch of stinky dudes that don't clean up after themselves and like do a 3-month stint. But either one of those give you some aspect of road life, right? So that's something that, again, I think that to Andrew's thing, like when someone's going to hire you for a gig, and that's the conversation I had with the artist I'm working with now with his manager. He said, well, have you been on the road before like this? And I said, well, no. I mean, last year I did pre-programming and support for a 5-time Grammy Award winning artist, but they flew me out to the gig. We were out there for a couple of days. They flew me back. Like I was not on a bus. We were in cushy hotels, and I told him, I said, truthfully, I'm kind of wondering, will I enjoy being just a playback operator? Cause that's not the thing. That's not my favorite thing in the world to do, is to be a playback operator. And we went through this tour and I learned, okay, this is a great fit because the people and blah, 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 whatever. But here's the thought I want to try to get at is I think when Tyler's talking about proximity principle, I would say I would rather someone go be a second backline assist at the level of show they want to work at than them being the head of a venue for a 300 cap venue if their desire is to do the other thing, if that makes sense. Like think
Yeah.
about not all of us are going to be able to instantly walk onto a arena gig, but if you want to be at an arena gig, I don't think I think the days of like you've got to start as the runner at your local venue to work up to that, I don't think you have to do that, partially because there's such a shortage of really good people and people looking for people. Like I think that's a path, and maybe a longer path,
Mhm.
but I think just being aware of or testing the waters of what type of show you want to be at. And I think, Tyler, that hits to your point of like, don't sit back and cross your arms maybe and say I'm a playback engineer and you wait 6 years for like the arena gig,
Sure.
but do playback at some sort of level, or go do backline assist, guitar tech,
Sure.
on that level of show to say, do I like that lifestyle? And then you can maybe do the playback thing. Am I right in all that, Tyler? Or are you like, I disagree, I push back? What do you think?
I think when I'm saying I'm trying to give the fastest, most foolproof way, if this is the real industry that you want to get into, to get a gig as fast as possible. And I see that as being get an industry no matter what it takes, even if you hate the job, or move to Nashville and show people there that you're good at playback. Like those are the two options. And I think you are doing a good job at zooming out big picture. Like what do you want to do? And there is possibilities you fall into those things, but most people don't fall into those things. Like the real, if you're not Will Doggett, the way to get arena gigs is to grind it out for 5, 6, 7 years,
Yeah.
and you have to start somewhere. So I'm trying to think of a way to give people the most practical steps where they're like, if tomorrow I want to be in the music industry and that's what I really want, this is a sure way to do it. And the reality is, in a small town, if this is what you really want to do, you're probably not going to make it work in a small town. Like, I'll just be honest. Like, if this is what you really want to do, it's not like the job's not really. You're not. I'm gonna get too intense here, but you're not like given the right to do this job just because you learned Ableton.
Yeah.
Like, you have to. If this is what you want to do, you have to go do it, and that's the tough reality of it. And that might mean moving to Nashville. That might mean just moving somewhere where you can get around the people who are doing the job. And like I fell into it in Austin. There's a lot of live music in Austin. That is a good practical step from a small town in Texas.
Yeah.
Will, you got the gig because you're Will Doggett. Like no one else has. Most people don't have a platform that you have to be able to get picked up to do arenas. Like it's just not reality. So I'm trying to get people the most practical steps they can take to get to where they want to go, as long as they know that this is what they really want to do. Because there are people who really want to do that job, and that's awesome. And I think you got to just start doing the work.
Well, and part of what's interesting too is you won't know if you like the job till you do it. So I think that's where like I would encourage someone, not from maybe they want to do this their whole life, but to learn, like, do I want to be at an arena level show, or even not even arena? Do I want to play shows where I'm on a bus and I'm not on a van and we're out for, I mean, again, for me, like I know I do not want to do a show where I'm out 3 months straight, but a weekend warrior gig, like after doing this for 3 months, I'm like, dude, this is easy. This is great. I'll do that. And that's a different type of gig, right? Like, and I mean, I've talked to people that are out on the road that they're like gone for 3 years and don't see their family for 3 years because they're doing worldwide, like giant pop R&B gigs. I don't want to do that. I don't care how much that gig
for. That's the gig.
Yeah,
people want. Yeah.
That's right. And so I think the only way to learn if you want to do that is to do that, or to at least think about, like, pause for just a moment and get really clear on your goal in the future and let the future dictate what you do in the present, which is a psychological viewpoint of time that I've stolen from my favorite author of all time, Dr. Benjamin Hardy. Shout out to Dr. Hardy. But anyway, I think that's such a big piece of like, think about Reese, if I kind of throw you on the spot here, I think you and I talked about this a few months ago of like, and I had this conversation with Matt, someone who was in our previous boot camp, of like, okay, what's the end result of what you're doing and where it leads to? And is that actually where you want to be? Because if what leads you to, like you said, Tyler, being away from your family forever, and that's something that's not going to work in your context or your scenario, then find something else that's like surrounds that. Like you can be a playback programmer remotely. But I think the most important thing for people to understand is what gets you the gig isn't always what helps you keep the gig. Because I walked into this gig and every single person at this gig knew my name and knew who I was because of my presence online for the past 20 plus years. But that is not what kept the gig, right? What kept the gig for me was they realized, one, oh, he actually does know what he's talking about. Thank God. But two, I was a good fit with this particular group of people. So, it's one thing to have like a cool Instagram and show you building a rig or showing this rig you design. But if you actually can't do the job and you people actually don't like being around you, then you're not going to keep the gig, right? You may get it by that, but you won't be able to keep it. So I don't know. I think that's all good, Tyler. Reese, do you have anything for us as we start to wrap up? Like any
Yeah,
clarifications you want?
something along the same lines that someone else had sent in on, I guess it was an email. Um, but I really want you guys to address this as quick as you can, because we don't want to keep Tyler all day. But someone was saying like, "Hey, I'm in a city where there doesn't seem to be a lot of opportunity as well." And he's placed some ads, not really getting a response. I don't know if it's like literally paid ads or just, posts on social media or whatever. But the one thing in particular that I'd like you guys to both comment on, he says, I'm a really strong engineer, but there seems to be very little demand for our line of work. Do you guys find that to be true? Everything I'm seeing, I'm reading about the industry in terms of live shows and whatnot. Um, I would personally disagree with that. I don't know if he's specifically referring to remote services, but what do you guys think about that as quick as you can? If you can be quick.
Be-
Well,
beauty before age, Tyler? Or you want me
um,
to go?
no, that's okay. It depends what they're talking about, right? Like I I would probably go so far as to say there's not remote work for playback programmers. Like Will would disagree probably because I think of the
Not
world.
fully.
It's not likely. Maybe I'm in a negative mood today, but it's just like that's not going to be your full time job, playback programming, because there's so many people in LA, Nashville, who are around the world who are music directors, who are sitting there with the artists programming. Some random person that puts up an advertisement to program your playback set is I don't think it's going to be very useful. Um, as far as playback work, there is a lot of playback work for people who are really good at playback and who have a lot of experience in the industry and who also have other skills on top of being able to do playback. That would be my synopsis.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, again, it would be worth the clarification. I
Yeah.
agree with Tyler that I think the remote, like I just sit at my home and all I do is program Ableton sets and I've never met these people and I've never actually been on the road ever before. I don't think a lot of that work exists, but what does exist, because I have lots of students, Mike Perkinpine, we talked about this on his Behind the Spacebar episode, that they get side gigs doing playback programming or set building from people that they have worked for and
Yeah.
they have moved on to another gig and those people go, no, we still want you around in some capacity or another.
Right.
And so that 100% does exist for sure. I know that. But yeah, I agree with Tyler. Like just putting an ad up that says, hey, hire Joe Schmo for playback programming. That's not very likely. I would also agree with Tyler that I think there are more gigs available than there are people. There is a trend now that more so than 5 years ago that a lot of these, I would say, A-list pop artist gigs are going to playback companies that are also music directors. So
Mhm.
I think your chance of getting in as a playback engineer with a company like that is likely not going to happen unless you're part of that company. Because for the artist, it's a really cushy thing because they just pay a company. And if that guy like falls and breaks his leg, then they bring this girl in that is a part of the company that has access
Yeah.
to all the files and all the templates and knows it and the support. So I think that's really good. What I would encourage everyone, I would love to selfishly end our episode. I mean, no, Reese, you've got some wrap up stuff for us, but I would love to selfishly end our episode encouraging everyone to check out a book that we've talked about quite often in the community. And Tyler's even kind of said this phrase multiple times, a version of it. It's a book by Cal Newport called So Good They Can't Ignore You. And the premise of this book is it's based off a quote where someone asked Steve Martin, Steve, how do I get gigs as a comedian? And he said, be so good they can't ignore you. And I really resonate with this because this is my personal story. Like Tyler said, it's like, I just determined that I'm going to not be a generalist. I'm going to be a specialist. And yes, I think what Tyler said about playback and monitors, playback and whatever, I think there's a lot of value in that. My personal story, whether you're, sorry, I don't want to fragment the audience here. What I'm trying to say is whatever you're trying to do, just be so good at it that when you show up and do a gig, the people that are on that gig will speak about you to other people. And when that opportunity comes up, the way you get gigs is that you become so good that people can't ignore you. And it's maybe a little easier these days to do that because of social media, but I'll go back to what I said. You may get that gig because you've got the face and the name through social media, but if you actually can't do the gig and you're actually a terrible person, you're not going to keep the gig, and that
And you
word
won't
will
get any more
spread just
gigs.
as
Yep.
quickly. That's right. That you won't get any more gigs. So be so good they can't ignore you, I think, is a good advice for us to like kind of bring everything home with, because no matter what's venue size, no matter what capacity you're doing this, just playback and something else, it's never going to hurt to be so good at your craft that people can't ignore what you're doing.
I'll give a
Yeah,
quick personal
and that.
anecdote on. Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Go ahead.
no, no, go ahead, go ahead.
Quick personal anecdote on that because I actually never heard that before, but I really like it because when I started getting into touring, I had no interest in touring. I was working in an office with Will, um, and people knew I was good at Ableton just because I had been doing it in my personal life. I had been interacting with people. People knew I was good, and they recommended me for that, even though I was not out there looking. I wasn't even really using Ableton on a daily basis to run tracks or anything like that. But when you said that, I was like, oh yeah, that's actually how I got into the industry, just because I spent a long time getting good at it and people knew that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and
good.
the last thing I would say too, addressing that particular question, kind of wrapping up what you both were talking about, there's a high demand for playback engineers, playback techs, whatever term you want to encapsulate that line of work in. In terms of remote programming, maybe not. I think it was Charles that emailed this question in. I think as the more I read it, I think he's trying to talk about like, how do I offer my services remotely to get in-person gigs? And again, I think that just took me back to what Tyler was talking about at the beginning of the episode. It's like it's really probably going to be more about who you know. I mean, because my personal experience would be like, hey, Charles, I've tried some of the same things, just like put my name out there on locally on Facebook and like, hey, anybody want to work together? It's like, well, they don't know me, and nothing much came of it. So I can say for certain that that's probably a long, arduous path to take. You're probably going to need to get face to face with people as much as possible, regardless of where you are. And then you never know. Well, you've talked about some of these relationships in terms of like the payoff of getting a gig take years. The immediate um, the immediate job, the immediate gig, the immediate gratification is, you know, if that's the world you're living in, good luck. It's probably not going to happen. Not to be discouraging by any means, but just I guess keep grinding. Maybe that's one way to kind of wrap up the episode. Just stick with it. If this is what you want to do, just keep plugging away, keep meeting people, keep serving people, whoever you're working with. Don't give up. But yeah, to Tyler's point, I know he said it multiple times. Be sure that's what you want to do. Especially if it's on the road. Uh, Me, road, no thank you. But I like talking about Ableton with you guys. I like talking about playback with you guys. Will, one more time, why don't you tell them where maybe they can go to get some free resources if they want to learn more about it, maybe have some conversations with you in the future.
Yeah, I think if you want to get a world class gig, you got to be a world class playback engineer. And the best first step you can take is to head to fromstudiotostage.com/template. We've got a free template that is designed from 20 plus years of teaching people how to use Ableton. I personally am at a stage of my life where I only work with Grammy Award winning or nominated artists. And you can roll your eyes at that, but it's just the literal truth of the stage of life that I'm in as a playback engineer. And these are concepts and ideas that have been road tested, that have been proved to work. And I want to give those to you completely for free. So head to fromstudiotostage.com/template. You could download our free template. We'll give you access to our prep and program stage of the playback method, which will teach you exactly how to use that template, get you started on your path. And then you'll also get access to Backline, which is our free gear database of all the gear that we have tested, that we personally use and we know that works. It's not just a Reddit post of something that someone once thought may work. And you can find all that from studiotostage.com/template. And then finally, for future episodes, the fuel of these shows are your questions. And so shout out to, I think it was Andrew Charles, who submitted questions for this episode. But if you've got a question you want us to answer, Reese, why don't you wrap up by letting everybody know where they can go to submit their questions to us?
From studio to stage IG. Just DM us, send us those questions. We will answer them. But also, don't even bother reaching out unless you got some Grammys. I don't even know. Did they have to be Grammy Award winning or nominated? Like, what's the standard here?
You well,
in order
to, I want to clarify. I want to clarify.
yeah,
I don't want to be judged.
Yeah.
I like that. That's a good one.
Submit a question, you must have listened to a Grammy Award winning artist.
Okay, yeah.
To work with me, you have to be a Grammy Award winning or nominated artist. But you could submit your question if you've once listened. I did have to. Well, I'm not going to say the name because then I look like a complete what bag. But the third artist that I've worked with most recently, amazingly, who's the most famous of the three I've worked with, has not won any Grammys. He's only been nominated, so I had to add in Grammy nominated or award winning. So, but yeah. Anyway, so I went with whatever. We should stop. While
I know who it is too, and everybody's brain would melt out of their ears if we dropped that one. So we're not going to say it.
Yeah, maybe that's another story for another day because some fun stuff came.
Will's really cool, guys. Basically, that's the takeaway from this episode. He knows famous people.
Tyler made fun of me after I came back with working with this one guy because I was just listening to his music incessantly, and it was fun.
Yeah, anyway. It's like the movie Almost Famous. That's Will Doggett right now. He's living that life.
Yeah.
If you've ever seen that one.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for listening. This has been super fun. Reese and I have to run to go do our boot camp coaching call, which is really fun every week. Well, maybe at some point, Reese, we'll talk about what that is and how people can join for the future.
Absolutely.
But those are really fun. It's a conversation much like this, but we get to kind of deep dive into everyone's specific situation. But man, Tyler, thanks for hanging for, I guess it's 2 episodes now in a row. I think it's been really fun. And
thanks for having me.
Reese, thanks for hosting us as always. And thank you guys for listening. I guess we'll see everybody on the next one.
All right. See you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.